WWE has had a lot of faith in the new faction of Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman has a lot of history running factions. It's a part of his WWE Hall of Fame pedigree, and this current one will feature the likes of Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, and Bronson Reed. And why shouldn't they? This is a guy who, as we've said, he can do this. Paul Heyman has created a lot of stars, both as a creative mind behind the scenes and as an on-screen manager and associate to the likes of Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, who've all gone on to great success with Paul Heyman at their side. He managed more WrestleMania main events than anyone else in the history of WWE, and he's a voice that is synonymous with WWE's product through multiple generations. So, being managed by Paul Heyman must be a guaranteed route to success with WWE. Well, yes, but not completely. Allow us to explain a little bit further. You're watching Sportskeeda Wrestling. I'm a Paul Heyman guy, or rather a Paul Heyman fan. Yes, I'm Kevin Callum, and today we're taking a look at every Paul Heyman guy that maybe got fumbled by WWE in the process. Let us know your thoughts and whether or not you would be a Paul Heyman guy in the comments below. Yeah, hit the like button and subscribe to Sportskeeda Wrestling as we march our way to 200,000 subscribers. Yes, we can do this. Let us have that dream. Thank you, and let's move on with the video. Paul Heyman has generally delivered the hits as a manager during his on and off tenure with WWE on screen. Notably, he's had success, including his stint as an advocate for Brock Lesnar during his reign of terror, the years he spent as a special counsel for Roman Reigns, and the Bloodline, yes, the OG tribal chief, that was all Heyman's, doing, and his time as the manager of CM Punk during his 2012 heel run, which was very impressive as well. He also managed Brock Lesnar during his early days in the company, making him the next big thing, as Paul Heyman dubbed him, and a breakout superstar for WWE during the Ruthless Aggression days. Yeah, a successful run that saw Brock Lesnar become the youngest WWE champion in history at the time. He managed the likes of The Big Show and briefly was at the aid of Kurt Angle to success on SmackDown, where he was also a head creative mind, even getting into brief and slightly uneventful stints as the manager of his old ECW chums, the Dudley Boys, in the early 2000s, mainly in Paul's feud with The Undertaker. That one had mixed results, yeah. But to find Paul Heyman's first managerial setback in WWE, we have to go all the way back to June of 2001. The invasion angle. WWE had won the Monday Night Wars against their well-financed, multi-million-dollar rivals in Turner Broadcasting's WCW, with Vince McMahon and WWE purchasing the rival company in 2001. ECW, the influential kind of third place company that was really just something that was subsidized by WWE for extended periods of time, was also purchased by WWE, where there was a sense of a storyline, a possibility here. Yes, are we going to get WCW versus WWE with ECW messing it all up? Yes, these ECW invaders were led by Paul Heyman in shocking fashion, with fans super excited about what was to come under the storyline guidance of ECW's new and very extreme owner, the billion-dollar princess of Vince McMahon, his daughter, Stephanie McMahon. Heyman was pivotal in bringing the alliance of ECW and WCW together to take on WWE, despite the storyline quickly losing steam, even though it had astronomical expectations from fans. This was Marvel versus DC, and we were not getting anything like that. No one really came out of this looking any better, except for maybe RVD, Rob Van Dam, and the Dudley Boys. Everyone else just kind of got lost in the shuffle, but probably grateful for their time on television. You can't really blame Heyman for this, given what he had to work with creatively, and he was really more of an on-screen talent at the table for creative, not guiding the entire ship of it. And this was WWE that wanted WWE superstars to look strong over the invaders from WCW and ECW. It's worth mentioning that in all of this. As we mentioned, in the early 2000s on SmackDown, Paul Heyman had a good managerial success rate. That began in the change of 2004 with his brief stint alongside Heidenreich. Yeah, you didn't know that one. Yeah, now a meme, Heidenreich was probably quite poor during his WWE run. He was large, he was big, he had that larger-than-life factor, but bell to bell, it simply wasn't there. And it was noted that he was unsafe by the likes of technical wrestling great Stevie Richards, although he was someone we all remember for terrible things like that weird scene with him getting really close to Michael Cole's ear and saying stuff. Yeah, poor Michael. Paul managed Heidenreich during his feud with The Undertaker in 2004, until Heidenreich was written off TV in early 2005, really never to return. In fairness, we don't really think anything could have given Heidenreich the credibility that WWE desired that he reached to. But it says a lot that they were willing to put him with Paul Heyman in his corner in their attempts. Much like the invasion angle, there was a lot of excitement when WWE revived ECW as its own standalone brand. Yes, the Extreme Championship Wrestling Rebels were back under the finance guidance of WWE. It was WWE's ECW reboot in the mid-2000s, which Heyman made a big deal. He managed it, he produced it, and now here he was once again working with that brand. These names included the likes of Rob Van Dam, who initially was successful in this pairing, and that was short-lived given the real-life controversy surrounding WWE and the ECW championship reigns. Paul quickly turned on him, aligning with Big Show in storyline. Heyman had success with the Big Show on SmackDown, managing the world's largest athlete to a WWE championship some years earlier, defeating a young, flipping from heel to babyface Brock Lesnar. On the ECW run, though, they didn't have the same level of success. Paul managed Show during his ECW championship run, which was maligned by fans simply not buying this new version of ECW, and not buying someone who was clearly vetted in their eyes as a WWE WCW product as the new ECW champion. They wanted an ECW original, especially in the early days of the revival, and they wanted someone like Rob Van Dam or maybe a younger, new name that had tattoos and attitude like, CM Punk. These were ECW fans amongst WWE fans, and they were very vocal, like ECW fans always were. There were several ECW TV broadcasts that featured the chant, "Change the Channel," during Big Show's ECW matches, despite Paul Heyman's best attempts on the microphone to get him over as a big heel. This wasn't the big deal they wanted it to be, but it just didn't translate into what the ECW audience wanted, and no amount of great promo work could change all of that. At this time, Heyman formed a mini faction with both Test and Bob Hardcore Holly alongside the Extreme Big Show. Though he was aligned with them, they never did much beyond the challenging of the ECW Championship unsuccessfully until they both departed the brand for good in February of 2007 and January of 2009 respectively, despite a brief move to Raw for Hardcore Holly. A perk to go to along the way was his role as general manager of the new ECW. Heyman was given a goon squad of guards dressed up in riot gear with their faces covered. These men actually were former WWE Tag Team Champions Danny and Doug Basham, who certainly didn't do anything better than their association with Paul Heyman, really. The whole purpose of the ECW stable was to replicate the success of groups like Vince McMahon's Corporation on Monday Night Raw in the late 90s. It wasn't what ECW fans wanted in the mid-2000s. It was only ECW content because Paul Heyman was involved with it, and the championship was there. It felt like WWE Light. In any other context, this was WWE material, and fans didn't feel any deviation from what they saw on Raw and SmackDown. Following the failure of WWE's ECW, more specifically the disastrous December to Dismember pay-per-view event, the only one that was ever exclusive to the revived ECW brand, Heyman mutually parted ways with WWE. He was simply that upset, reportedly. When he returned, he enjoyed a successful managerial stint alongside CM Punk and Brock Lesnar, with the WWE and Universal Championships respectively assigned to these massive names. It also featured Paul Heyman on a lot of TV cutting promos for two different villains who were operating on two different wavelengths with two different championships, and a couple of Undertaker WrestleMania matches wedged in between the two of them. one of which saw Brock Lesnar end the fabled WrestleMania winning streak. That's right, Paul Heyman got to be there for that and drive that storyline home. However, Heyman decided to take another Paul Heyman guy at this time, a young talent who showed a lot of potential and had the pedigree of an all-time great. The man was Curtis Axel, the son of Mr. Perfect Curt Hennig. He was fresh off his run in the Nexus breakout stable as Michael McGillicuddy, but found himself rebranded with the genesis of McGillicuddy flopping, and yeah, let's go with a better name. Curtis Axel was better anyway, right? Yeah. His dad, Mr. Perfect, was managed by Bobby the Brain Heenan, and it was a winning combination, so you could see kind of like a modern-day reinvention of that. It worked at first, with Axel picking up the WWE Intercontinental Championship for a respectable reign of 155 days, eventually losing it to a man who's still known as Big E Langston in November of 2003. Axel also formed the team of Ryback while under the tutelage of Heyman, but this didn't take off either. This pairing was simply used as henchman or cannon fodder for more main event single stars, and eventually in August of 2014, Heyman cut a promo where he distanced himself from both of them. Although WWE appeared to care quite a bit about Curtis Axel early on, giving him a lot of TV time, the Intercontinental Championship, and Paul Heyman as his manager, they had already set up maybe a fall of his NXT Nexus persona, and the name change here didn't really progress more than the initial stage. Why not simply just call him Curt Hennig? He's got the name, just Curtis Hennig. It's a reference to his dad. Credibility's built in. You're making an open reference to that. Why not let him be perfect for a new generation? Yeah, I get it. It's eerily similar to the situation with Braun Breaker is right now, where he's often being referred to as a member of the Steiner family without actually being allowed to use the name, probably because of merchandise or legal stuff. Let's hope Curtis Axel serves more as a warning than an omen in this regard. Finally, we have the Swiss Cyborg himself, one of the most underrated big match performers of his generation, Cesaro. The Swiss Superman, the king of swing, and a current AEW superstar, Claudio Castagnoli, came into WWE with a ton of hype after a massive run in Ring of Honor and around the world on the independent circuit. He was one of those guys you knew could do a lot, especially once the bell rang. Fresh off winning his first ever Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania 30, which was a big deal for lower-ranking stars on the card at the time, a real American tag team run alongside Jack Swagger and Zeb Coulter, Cesaro was looking for something fresh. And that seems like yet another formula for success given Paul Heyman's already legendary status and Cesaro's early run being quite successful and him being featured in some big matches. Also him showing some ungodly levels of strength. Remember when he would do that suplex from like the middle rope from outside the ring into the ring? That was cool. But WWE simply tried it, didn't give it much chance to get off the ground, and it was reflected in the TV time that the two got together, which wasn't all that much. Though Heyman was Cesaro's manager during this time, you would have never really known it because WWE rarely featured them on TV together outside of a handful of scenes. They tried nothing, and they were really not pushing it as a serious thing, so they moved Heyman back to his duties alongside Brock Lesnar, and Cesaro stayed in that upper mid-card area the rest of his time with the company. Paul Heyman has a great record overall in professional wrestling, a lot of it predating his time in WWE for you younger fans, and his success stands out a lot more than his failures, so much so that we've even forgotten about some of these projects ourselves. But what this proves above all is that a pairing with him is not a guaranteed path to storyline, televised, super entertainment, sports entertainment success. So fast forwarding back to the present, we're not going to say that we're going to see a big failure and bomb of Paul Heyman's new Heyman family with Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, and Bronson Reed, given that this one has kind of already got established main event star in the top role and up-and-comers right behind him who feel like they're going to be bound for some big things. If it doesn't work out, these guys all have momentum to keep going. And if it ends up being uneventful, yeah, they're going to make something happen with everyone involved here. Besides a bad run aside, Paul Heyman is still Paul Heyman. And at this level, at this stage of his career, after getting inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame, if you haven't watched that speech, go seek it out. It's one of the best. You would be silly to bet against Paul Heyman overall. Let's just hope WWE learns from the mistakes of Paul Heyman's, who didn't really last in our memory that well, because that's what wrestling companies have to do, adapt and entertain along the way. And that's it for another video. Did we miss out on anyone that you remember that Paul Heyman managed? Yes, we do know he had time in WCW. Do you think Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed are doomed to join the not-so-successful side of Paul Heyman projects? Or are they bound for success like other people he's worked with? Let us know your thoughts and really dig into the comments section and get in there. We'll jump in there as well. Share this video. Yes, share the link or you stink. And subscribe to Sportskeeda Wrestling for more wrestling content just like this. Also, enable those notifications on so you never know when we drop a video just like this. The algorithm gets weird, but wrestling is always going to be a weird world to talk about, isn't it? And that's not a prediction, that's a spoiler.